Hey, deserving listeners, love is blind. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Since this is a psychology YouTube channel, keep in mind that everything I say might contain triggering material. Usually not, but watch with care. Let's watch.
You know, they see atrocious things. These service members go over there and they're kids and they do like horrible things. And it's just, I don't think we really understand like what we're signing up for when we do it.
Okay.
What?
No, I was just.
I'm feeling judged.
Are you?
I'm feeling judged.
Okay, so they've been having a really good conversation about their values, their politics, and their journey. It sounds like both of them grew up in fairly religious situations. She, I've been taking notes, grew up Mormon, it sounds like, and then later decided she didn't like to be a part of the Mormon Church, Latter-day Saints, because it was patriarchal and racist, according to what she's saying. And he is, you know, they're talking about religion and politics and the patriarchy and racism and American imperialism, and talking about what the American military has done and continues to do. And they're pretty critical of that. For her, you know, she clarifies between, well, I'm against what the American military has done, but I support the individuals, you know, the troops. And then she was prompted or started talking about like how she came from a military background, military family, and she was in the Navy for 7 years, and how she was 18 when she signed up and she didn't really know what she was getting into. And he is, you know, not so subtly questioning whether or not that's a viable excuse. I don't know if that's such a great move. Maybe, you know, they can handle this kind of conversation, but given the newness of their relationship, I think that it might be a little risky, because up until this point, it seemed like he was reacting to her, making her feel like she would have to justify her decision to have joined the military when she was 18, coming from a military family. You know, we can have that conversation, and they're having that conversation. And it's great that she, instead of getting upset or walking away or attacking or getting defensive or continuing to try to justify, she just calls it out. She's like, I'm feeling a little judged. And then he says, oh, I'm sorry. I think you could lay it on a little thicker in terms of, oh, no, that's not what I don't want you to feel that way. So I wonder if he's saying, oh, no, I don't want you to feel judged, but I do question your perspective as to the lack of responsibility of people who sign up for the military or something like that. And I'm not endorsing their point of view. I'm just pointing out that they're having that conversation, and it's good that they're having it.
Do I even have a right to say I'm anti-military in the politics that they do and what we've done to other countries if I willingly and voluntarily signed up to go do that exact thing? Am I a hypocrite? Like my actions in the military and like what I've done, I've deployed.
I don't want you to feel judged. You have a great heart, babe. I don't question that.
Okay, they're editing it, but he is doing what I would hope he would do. He's like, I'm not saying anything about you. I think maybe what he'll say here is that he just has questions as to whether or not people can be absolved of their responsibility by claiming that they were naive or that they were coming from a background in the military when they signed up for the American military. So I think maybe that's what he's getting into.
Impacted like directly, like you were like, my house was bombed. I don't know if I would be brave enough to like sit in front of this person and be like, but I still support the troops, dude. Like, I'm sorry your house got bombed, but I support the troops. And like, that's a hard thing because that requires me to like realize like, yeah, while I was on the Navy ship, while I didn't push a button to shoot off a missile, I supported operations that did kill people. I know you don't like my military service.
And they're being filmed, so I wonder if it would be different if they weren't. Maybe not, but I wonder if they're both maybe, because he's not saying anything, I wonder if he's worried that if he says anything, it's going to go to the entire country, the entire world in terms of what he's saying, and it's hard to get into this topic without it bothering some people, maybe even people in his life, maybe even people in her. So that's another consideration that he probably thinks it's like, oh, well, I'm going to meet her family, and they're all military folks, I think, and so I need to watch out what I say if I want to continue with this relationship. So, yeah. And she still is trying to convince him or justify herself to him. I would hope that he could say something like, you don't have to justify yourself to me. I'm not judging you. I have my own hypocrisies. I'm not even calling you a hypocrite. I'm just saying that it's complicated, and I really appreciate that you're talking about this, and I really respect the road that you've, I just hope you would say something like that.
I don't know if you would have wanted to be engaged to me 2 years ago.
Honestly, I probably
not.
In the pods, I didn't want that to be like your sort of defining thing. I wanted to like, get to know you beyond that.
It's been my entire life. I grew up on bases since I was 2. And then I did it in high school, I did it in college, and I did it for the last 8 years.
Yeah, and for her, it would just be so complicated. It's so easy from the outside to look at her and think, oh, she's a hypocrite, or that she is inconsistent in her point of view, or she doesn't know what she's talking about, or I don't know what people are saying. But it's super complicated growing up. It's not just complicated because it's hard to figure out. It's complicated because it's just complicated. There's so many different aspects to it, right? She still loves people that are in the military. Like for myself, I have people that are in my extended family who I like a lot. I consider them to be very nice people, and we have completely opposite voting practices. And what do we do with that, right? Because there are accusations that can be waged both directions of, what people will say is you're ruining our country, or you're the bad part, you're bringing us backwards, or you're destroying things. There's rhetoric along those lines. How do we navigate that without destroying things, right? How do we build up? How do we be constructive? How do we be a force for good in this world while those things are happening? And where's the line, right? We can't just say, it's just all politics, whatever, because it's important, and there are real life consequences. There are people dying, people suffering, people being made to be refugees, their family members dying. There's real stuff happening, and how do you navigate that? What do you do about it? How do you communicate about it in dating relationships and as you get to know each other? I can't imagine what it's like dating today, now that I think about it. Because when I was younger, certainly politics was a thing, but not like today. So I just can't imagine. And by all markers, I think they're very much aligned, politically speaking, very much. The reason why they even started this conversation was because they were talking about the marriage. Like, okay, what kind of marriage? And they're like, okay, what kind of officiant do we want? And she was saying, I don't want a cis-het male, I think is what she landed on. And they were talking about not having a religious officiant. And they were talking, our families, how they're going to do with that, but, okay. And they weren't really locking things down, but they were talking about it. And then that led to them talking about the patriarchy and the military and how she emerged from being in the Mormon church and also in the military and that whole culture. And she talks about how she's very much brainwashed. I don't know if she used that word, but very convinced of certain narratives and points of view. It's the first time we've seen them have any kind of tension. So I suspect they'll weather this storm, but let's see what happens.
So it's like, it is a huge part of my life. And I am proud of my service. I support the troops, babe. I just want you to know, I support the troops. I don't regret joining the military.
They're editing it. I don't know if this is representative of what's happening. They're doing the one shot on him that he could be listening, and then when he says something, they cut away. Who knows? But in terms of the edit, she is trying to justify herself. She's trying to make her case. And in the edit, he's just staring at her in a blank, possibly judgmental, possibly hateful way. I mean, that's going far, but the way that it looks is that he is just angrily judging her, or at the very least judging her, and she's getting more and more upset about that.
It's not something I want you to like be ashamed of, because that's okay.
Yeah.
Like my service, it will. I don't think I can handle like you being ashamed of my service.
I wouldn't like want anyone to feel shame about their past.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So he's saying that, and that was really good communicating on her part. There's a lot of negative or destructive ways she could have communicated this. She could have gone on the attack, like, how dare you judge me, or you've done things in your past, or I can't believe that we're having this conversation, or you're just a typical whatever. She is in the moment, knowing her feelings, just like, I feel judged. I feel like maybe he's ashamed of me, or I'm ashamed. I'm being made to feel ashamed. And so she says, I don't want you to be ashamed of my past. And that was, it was good communication, and then gives him the opportunity to answer that question. And he says, I don't want anyone to be ashamed of their past. I think meaning, look, we all come from somewhere, and we didn't enter the world into a blank slate. We had influences in our lives, and it's just a matter of what we do with it, I think is what he's saying.
As long as it's in your past.
I did try to do the reserves, and I could not be back in that environment, so I left. But if I were like a reservist, you probably wouldn't be with me.
Yeah.
Okay, so she is, I think, a lot more on the fence than she might know, or it's way more complicated than I'm picking up on. But she was earlier really denigrating the American military and saying that it's all a part of a killing machine or something along those lines. And to participate in it, knowing that, is to support the killing and the invading and the problematic American military actions. And then now, though, she's saying that she recently had considered being in the reserves, and I don't know what she's saying right now, but it almost sounds like she's saying that although she isn't likely to go into the reserves, it isn't completely out of, off the table or something. And that wasn't that long ago. It sounds like, meaning that she still is of that mindset that is open to that or something. And he's saying, yeah, I wouldn't want to be with you if you were in the military or thinking about being in the military. And people have their values. I guess if I were there, I would try to help them to more understand. He's not saying much, so I would ask him a lot of questions, like, okay, where are you coming from, and how are you feeling right now, and is this heading towards a deal breaker, or are you just really adamant about the American military, or would you like the cameras to go away so you could speak more freely? How are you doing? Marissa, do you have some more fundamental questions, like, do you still love me, even though I've rambled about this for a bit? I maybe help them to communicate. And I don't know what the answers are to those questions. I suspect that the answers are in the positive, but I don't know.
It probably wouldn't work out because we have we would be in very different places.
And I guess people can have their deal breakers, but I would hope that Ramses would have some flexibility here, because if he wants to be with someone, her values on the surface anyway, it looked like were very close to his, and his are very close to hers. So if this difference, because in all the things that they were talking about, if you just made a list of all the different things they talked about, and you got to like 100 different items, which is possible, 98 of them, they are in complete alignment. And it's even doubtable whether or not the last two, they're not in alignment. You know what I mean? Because she doesn't at least sound like she's planning in the future and being in the military, and she, for the most part, rejects it. So I would hope that he would be able to see the bigger picture here, which is that, and I don't know if he is considering this to be a deal breaker between the two of them, but his demeanor is coming across kind of, well, I don't know. It's kind of a question mark, but I would hope that for his sake, in terms of success in dating, that he would be realistic about the possibility of having a partner that is in complete alignment with the thousands of points of view that each of us may or may not have regarding politics in this country and military action and one's past and one's future plans, that kind of stuff. But I don't know. But people are entitled to their deal breakers, and if this difference, and because there is a bit there, it is a deal breaker for him, then it's a deal breaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need more information. The way that he is, because she's working real hard to be honest and to talk out loud about all of her journey and all the different thoughts she has. I think if someone were to critique her, all the things that she has said, they might find some inconsistencies. But we all are like that. Very few of us spend the time to systematically write out a dissertation about who we are and our values. So she was working real hard, and he was quiet and shut down. And although he was saying, I don't want you to, he's saying, I don't want you to be ashamed, his demeanor is seemingly disappointed in her and maybe taking a step back. That's his demeanor. And I would hope that he would talk more, And if he is seeing a major flaw, maybe it is best that he doesn't say it right away. But the only way that what's happening right now would make, I think, the only way this would be wise, the way that he's coming across, is if it is a major deal or close to a deal breaker for him. If it's not, if he is in his head, he's like, no, I'm pretty adamant about the military, but I love her and I want to be with her, and there's some issues there, but it's not a deal breaker. If that's the case, then I think he needs to put in some effort here. But I don't know. Well, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, that's where I stand.
I got what I want, so much different than I need, alone on the floor.
And, people disagree, and that doesn't mean that's the end.
Let's go!
Sorry, I just went to the next episode. It's not the end of the world that they might not see eye to eye on that, and it isn't his responsibility necessarily to smooth things over. Sometimes that's a problem, right? It's like, oh no, we disagree on something, we have to panic. It's okay to have a disagreement. It's not the end of the world.
Not hard on me, but there have been multiple times where she said something way more cool. I can take that stuff, but
that's
the 20th time, it's okay, I
that's been my issue with her. She's fucking great, but also she'll say things, and then if I say the same level of thing back, it's a problem.
Right.
All right, well, that's interesting. So we're learning from Hannah's brother that what we've been, I haven't been showing all the bits and pieces because I don't know, I just didn't really have much to say. It just looked like Hannah and Nick having their typical kind of jokey banter with each other. but I was seeing what might have been Hannah being hurtful, is probably the most neutral word, towards Nick, and really laying it on thick. I couldn't tell if this was a representation of the way they talk off camera and they're both on board with it, and we're just seeing the moments where Hannah is the one that is, making fun of him in a jokey way or something. But it seemed to go pretty far, and Nick didn't seem really to be enjoying it. And I just didn't know if Hannah just has a really bad sense of humor, or she can't read the room, or if she enjoys making fun of people because she has insecurities. When people make fun of others in a hurtful way as a pattern, it's typically because they have low self-esteem, and it's a well understood, well measured phenomenon among humans that, by comparison, if we can make someone lower, then we feel by contrast better. And if we feel very low, then we have to drag other people down, or we'll find other people that are, maybe even in the public sphere that we can look down on. And reality TV is an example of that. A lot of people will watch reality TV because it's, I don't know about Love is Blind, but other shows where the show will really ridicule people and other people will put other people down. Maybe, whether it's classism or sexism or something. And the viewership gets, by comparison, that, well, at least I'm not that bad, and then you feel better even though you feel quite low. So I don't know if what was going on. It had that look to it with Hannah. And I was wondering, and then now Nick is, he started to complain like barely at all about how Hannah can be mean sometimes. And then the brother says, yeah, that's a thing. And so when you hear a family member saying that, a family member that actually has a good relationship with Hannah saying, yep, she dishes it out, and when you try to give it back to her, she can't take it. So, yikes.
I love her for who she is, but some of the things she says, it's like, fuck, like, that kind of hits home, like,
Yeah. He also said a little earlier that the thing she says, and he's like, well, I could record it, but, I haven't really been doing that. That makes me wonder if it's been happening so much for so long now that he is thinking about starting to record it, because he's saying it's worse away from the cameras, which is saying something.
You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to shake off.
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
We're talking shit. Do you love Hannah?
Yeah. Have you ever been in love?
No, I hate men.
Me too. Except for Nick.
You still hate me, but as long as you love me, that's fine.
I hate
and there's also a demeanor or a mode or a persona of Hannah that is pretty childish. There's nothing wrong with that. She's pretty young. In fact, one of the moments in which she was putting him down was telling him how immature he is and how she is smarter than him. She's better with finances. I will mention, this is just kind of a side note, that she was talking with him about chores and about cleaning up, and the conversation on one hand was pretty heavy-handed from her. I mean, not terribly, but a little heavy-handed. And but another part of it seemed like a good conversation that they were having. And she said that she vacuums every day. and as a person that's as I get older and older, I become cleaner and cleaner. I could see that, especially if you get one of those, good, easily accessible, lightweight vacuum cleaners. It can be, but maybe there's some compulsion there. I don't know. It didn't sound like it. It just sounds like, she is just really particular. And she was not having a nuanced conversation. She was basically telling Nick, you will do this. And I don't know, just a lot of conversation about how, I mean, some of it I sort of get, but it seemed to be always Hannah seemed to always default to in the ridicule camp as a joke, right? Like he had talked about how he had only boiled noodles once, and she's like, only once? And, it is kind of notable, right? But, it's not like he's saying that he's never seen the moon or something. It's not that wild. Oh, and he lives at home with his mom, with his parents. He talked for a long time about how he isn't ashamed of it, and he shouldn't be ashamed of it. It's fine to live with your parents. I know in our country we have this problem with it. The rest of the world doesn't. It's fine. You can live with your parents. You cannot live with your parents. Everything's fine. It doesn't mean anything. But yeah, we're hearing from Cade, right? I wrote down his name. Yeah, Cade, Hannah's brother, that he. So anyway, they're joking around. Hannah doesn't know what they've been talking about. And Nick says, well, I kind of feel like you hate me. Well, as long as you love me, I suppose it's okay that you hate me.
Love you, babe.
I think we've been here like 2 hours yet. She hasn't said one compliment about me, which is okay. Do
you think I gave him a compliment?
I'm trying to think.
Nick, I think you're handsome.
Oh my God.
I think you're patient.
No. Okay.
And I fell in love with you for a reason.
Okay, that was good. Yeah, she didn't hesitate, and she complimented, and it wasn't jokey. And Nick is, I think, the one that should change his behavior. He was definitely fishing, or it definitely came across like it was fishing, which is fine, Everyone wants to be complimented now and then. And then when she obliges, he's like, oh, everything's... It's like, just soak it in.
Oh, tell me what you love about me.
Look, I love you don't have to change the type of woman you are for me. And I like that you can handle things on your own. It's very sexy. I like how confident you are. Like, that makes you beautiful.
Okay, go off. I love you. That was really nice. I needed that.
Okay, so that's good. Hope that he can tell her that she might have a pattern. Maybe Cade will talk with Hannah about her pattern. Another part of the conversation was that she was saying that she knows a lot more about finances, and she's pretty heavy-handed about, well, not, I don't know, heavy-handed, but she was pretty clear that she thought of him as being really inadequate and not intelligent regarding finances. And at first I'm like, oof. But then he talked about finances in a way that actually did demonstrate that she did know more than him. But there's a way to talk about it that isn't so hurtful, potentially, and I think we can believe Nick when he says that off camera it's 20 times worse. I think we can believe that. I can see how another angle to this for Hannah is that she's worried that Nick is going to reject her, and when that happens, she will make fun of him as a way of getting back at him for something that she's inventing in her mind. Maybe it is true that he is pulling away. He might be pulling away because of making fun of him. But I could see a scenario where as they get closer to the altar, even though their relationship might be okay, she is getting more and more worried, and it's a way of getting back at him again for a made-up narrative, but also a way of trivializing everything that's happening. And it's like, everything's a joke, everything's a joke, everything's a joke, I'm fine, everything's a joke, this is just funny, I'm not really invested, everything's a joke. All right, well, I want to remind everyone that we have merch. You can click the link below. We have some really great stuff. I love these tumblers. I use them all the time. And also, I want to remind people that there is a Facebook fan page that's not run by me. And there's also a subreddit that's run by fans, not run by me, that you can chat with other people about the various different things that we talk about and other things. Also, we have a website, of course, and we have an audio podcast that you can subscribe to on your phone. We have a Patreon. Yeah, up to you. And I want to thank you if you have liked any of my videos and subscribed to the YouTube channel. It helps us in terms of the algorithm, and it boosts my ego. Well, I mean, honestly, I guess I don't know if it boosts my ego, but it staves off insecurity when the likes are, a lot more than the dislikes. I should remind people that I am probably not going to be doing the Tuesday Tougher Bluffs in 2025. I don't know if that's a permanent change, but I want to try it on for size because it's actually a lot of work. I don't know if you've ever participated or seen those posts that I put on various different social media, including YouTube, where it's a tougher bluff. It's a true or false question about research in psychology. And although it's pretty gratifying to read through research and be familiarized with it as a part of the activity of coming up with these Tuesday Tougher Bluffs, it can be quite time consuming. And I want to spend my time where I think it's better to be doing that, like making these kinds of videos and or deep dives for the audio podcast. And I'm just trying to figure out the best use of my work hours during the day. Not to say I'm not going to read research. Of course, I do that as a matter of just my regular routine, but it can be really hard to read through a lot of research and come up with a compelling true or false that is actually a sound idea, because there's a lot of research out there and some of it is dubious. And in order to come up with a true or false, I have to read it very carefully. I have to think about the wording. I have to, and then posting it, you wouldn't think that would take a lot of time, but it does. Anyway, so, and it's a bummer because I've been doing Tuesday Tougher Bluff every Tuesday for 14 years, maybe more. I don't know, maybe 13 years, something like that. In the beginning, it was just on Facebook, but it's kind of weird to take a break from it. But and if you're interested and you're still watching, all of this scaling back on things is in the effort of preserving what I really am dedicated to, which is the audio podcast, which has 3 new episodes every week, and the YouTube channel, which I'm planning on always with Love is Blind US and with Queer Love, doing 2 videos, really just getting into those shows and posting 2 videos a day and doing live Q&As and all that kind of stuff. And then in between those intense content provision, there will be, I'll be posting reaction videos to 90 Day Fiancé, and I'll be polling y'all for ideas of like which couple to react to. And so I feel like it's getting back to kind of my roots. Originally on this channel, those are the 2 shows that I would watch, was Love is Blind and 90 Day Fiancé. And then maybe occasionally watching Couples Therapy. So those are, so it's like 2.5 shows, Love is Blind, 90 Day Fiancé, and Couples Therapy, and just kind of sticking to that. I'm going to finish out Sister Wives. I'm enjoying watching that, but it's harder for me to get into the groove with that show because it's just, I don't think it's really, it doesn't really lend itself to my expertise because I don't know how they really feel about things, particularly in the early seasons. Anyway, so I don't know if you're interested in all that, but if I'm scaling back on something, I don't want people to worry that I'm just going to scale back everything. I feel like with this current configuration heading into 2025, I feel like I'm going to have a pretty good work-life balance, I think. So yeah, everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.